Good afternoon. Hello to everyone here in our group, realspirituality.net, and a warm welcome to new members. Good to see you here. I would encourage you to listen to some replays. And with that said, good evening, good morning, depending on when you tune in and catch this. Victims Amiss. Honestly, I had some concerns with this, and with good reason. And of course was encouraged to do this, so definitely not light and fluffy. And hi, Sarah. Hope you don't mind me saying good to see you here. But I was encouraged to bring this up, and it, like I said, not light and fluffy, but he would have me do a reality check with everybody here. This, it not only pertains to my daughter, but it is as it relates to some of you or someone you may know, and while giving others a heads up and to be more willing to understand, so you may be able to help somebody in need of a very trying circumstances. Victims amiss, mistaken under other circumstances. And please know, anyone that really knows me much, I'm not one to play the victim card. We are divinely given to be victors, not victims. And another reason I was concerned about bringing this up. I mentioned last week that the kid's dad, Sabrina's former husband, was killed 8 years ago this month. And I did mention as far as Sabrina having a major burnout. And it is to explain what more happened there, to understand why she was having a hard time not being able to even hear what I was saying and trying to help her. Without going into details, she had ended up in a jail. And the people in the jail took it upon themselves, in their foolish brilliance, to purposely and deliberately give her up to 11 different psych meds they knew were wrong every day for the first week. They switched it out after that first week, and purposely and deliberately gave her another mix of psych meds that they knew were all wrong every day for the second week. At the end of the second week, they took her off everything cold turkey, which caused her to go into a series of mini strokes and seizures. And so, needless to say, it took her a while to walk and talk again. What those people did in that jail did not right or wrong. And that's why it made it impossible to not have this be a societal problem. It became a problem not only for Sabrina, for us, but to society. This was awful. What I will say in that, because they tried to keep me from seeing her in the jail, which was even worse, and because of what she was charged with at the time, she had a court-appointed attorney, and he let me know that he had the documentation for all this to prove it, and to pursue this after her proceedings were over, and to have it taken care of. And in that, I will say, of course, I was not impressed at all. And I wanted vengeance. I wanted justice. I wanted those people to answer and be accountable for what they did. When her proceedings were over, the lawyer had told me he was ready to do this. It was a separate case, and to make that jail, that county accountable. And he said all the documentation to prove what they did in their own writing had up and disappeared. And at that time, like I said, I wanted justice. Now, with where I was at the time, it was to be reminded, for anyone that is familiar with those scriptures, vengeance is the Lord's. And I had already come to know to what degree his vengeance is perfect in ways we as people could never do. And as a frustrated perfectionist in time past, I wanted that vengeance perfectly. There is a proverb that does say, obedience brings understanding, but when our obedience is fulfilled, obedience being to comply, to be in cooperation with him, allows him to bring that perfect vengeance and to revenge the disobedience. So when that paperwork showed up missing, that was one of those times I handed it to him, gave that care to him, and let him know they're all yours. Have at it. But in that was to keep my compliance in the spirit in his hand and to know how to help my daughter once she was out of their custody. And in that, it is to understand before this happened, my daughter was a medical assistant instructor. She was very intelligent. And after this, her cognitive ability was so impaired. Her thinking wasn't even that of a 21-year-old. And so this was devastating in a different way, but with the need to keep going. And so for me, in being compliant and making sure my cooperation was fulfilled, in doing everything I could to have that vengeance come perfectly, I was being directed to get certified, to go to this mental health mental health first aid, and be certified. It was an all-day class. And again, here we go, acknowledge him in all our ways. He will direct our path. He let me know one location, which was almost an hour away, and what day. I didn't question it. I knew it was for me to go. And so I did. It was an all-day class. And I would recommend anyone, if you're being nudged in that way, to definitely check it out. Take a class. It is all day. And I can't speak for the other instructors, but the one we had was awesome. And I was in a good group. And it so happened that one of the people in the class had come in an hour late and they were expecting it. But it so happened he was a politician, a rep for the state of Colorado. So needless to say, in the process of this class, were open discussions. And it was for me. I'm not one to speak in front of a crowd. I wasn't then, let alone the live streams now. But it was on me to speak up and share what happened to my daughter. And at that time, I had yet to know who he was. And he listened. And later, when we took lunch break, whatever, he asked me some questions. And just to assure everyone here, we're in a time where the world is it's being turned inside out. There's more and more being uncovered and exposed. And I am thankful to have taken that class and to speak with this man. And he did take note of my daughter's name, the location of the jail, the county. And the last I heard, this jail in the entire county is under a very thorough investigation. This is good news. But, in that it is to, on my part, like I said, last week, he knew what all I had gone through to do my best in helping my daughter. And those outside the home were not aware of what she was going through. And even for me personally to even be more sensitive, not only in dealing with my daughter and helping her the best I could, but to keep myself in cooperation with him and not take that care back on what happened at the jail and not to stew on it, to leave that in his hand, knowing his vengeance is perfect. So that was another challenge to deal with. As far as my daughter, having been an instructor, after that, she couldn't even read a book. She could not retain what she, even on one page, she could not retain that information. She liked word search puzzles. And so Brooke and I went and made sure she had um, the paperbacks, the big books we started with large letters, the word search puzzles, and she worked on those. We did our best to include her in different things. She had this struggle inside. Not only was she not able to grieve in a healthy way, go through a the grieving process in a healthy way, but then it was the added challenge, the circumstances of how her cognitive abilities were impaired. And so Brooke and I was doing, myself. I homeschooled kids, grandkids. And so for me, I was wanting to benchmark where she was. They had yet to test. The state had yet to test her as far as the severity of the cognitive impairment, which needed to be done. But at home, it was to benchmark it in different ways. And so we asked her if she wanted to play cards with us. And she used to be our really, really mean canasta player. We had up to 4 teams playing canasta out in Michigan with the Shaws. We'd have some good card games going. So Sabrina used to play cards quite well. And I wanted to see where she was at, if she remembered. We didn't play canasta, but we played rummy. She didn't forget. She was able to play those cards quite well. And because of and I bring this up with the encouragement of creative problem solving and to be sensitive in your spirit by the Father's guidance, by his spirit, with creative problem solving. And for Sabrina, it was for her cognitive ability and try to help her get things reconnected. And so in that was in her doing the word search puzzles. Then she asked us if we were up to playing Scrabble. That surprised us, and she's okay. And you need to understand, as far as playing Scrabble with Brooke, she had gotten so good at this. She'd always leave me in the dust. She got done quite well with this. And so, and it helped Brooke when she was younger with her spelling and using the dictionary and all this. So here we were playing Scrabble with Sabrina. And we had a dictionary there, but Sabrina didn't need it. She kicked our butts. Brooke couldn't even keep up with her. And so this was a good thing, but she still couldn't read. She couldn't retain even one paragraph. That was a challenge for her. And so for her, this is as it relates to others and someone you may know. If you're going through something similar yourself or someone you know, creative problem solving. And for me, with what I shared as far as what I went through with my hand, it was always with body mechanics. With Sabrina, it was with cognitive abilities. And one thing that comes to mind that may be helpful for someone here, my stepson was in a near fatal motorcycle accident some years ago. And he actually had swelling on the brain. They didn't think he was going to make it. And he was unresponsive, unconscious for 3 days. But then he woke up. And so he asked to borrow our PlayStation. Like I said, this was some years ago. He didn't have one at the time, and we gave him, he likes his motorcycles, and some other race. And he did that every day, playing the games. It helped him refresh his hand-eye coordination and his cognitive abilities. And they didn't think he would be able to return to work at the earliest a year. And he actually even was driving his truck 4 months later. That PlayStation, it really helped him with cognitive abilities. So I would encourage anybody in that way, even with what I've gone through with my hand. And, I've mentioned before, I've got complete healing in my hand now. But even to this day, I will weekly check on Bejeweled Blitz for hand-eye coordination to make sure where I'm at, where that's concerned. So even games or anything like that, or word search puzzle, is good. You can keep that in mind. Helpful in those ways. Like I said, if you're going through something similar or know of someone that is, you know, um, creative problem solving, he will help you with that, and just be sensitive in your spirit to new ideas, to other ideas. One thing I found helpful that I need to bring up is in the mental health first aid. One thing they did bring up concerning people that may be dealing with schizophrenia or anything like that, they had us, I'm trying to remember the gadget they had us use, but it was to use a cone or something in one ear and then have a person stand in front of us talking, and to see if you could make sense out of what that person was saying. And I got to tell you, it's very hard. And it gives you a better idea of what some people with mental health issues are going through if they're hearing these voices. After Sabrina left 3.5 years ago, I had gone through some of her things. I was straightening things up. She didn't keep her space clean like she used to. That just didn't come back to her in that way. She used to be very tidy and organized. That changed. And I found her journal that she was keeping, and it was very brief, but it was in the month before she left. And there were entries concerning these voices, the constant voices in darkness, that she couldn't get them to shut up, and she was just feeling so overwhelmed. And like I said, I didn't see this until after she was already gone. Um, she had made mention of it to me once or twice before she left. And so I would, having experienced that in that class, I kept that in mind and would try to hold her hand. She didn't want to be touched, and at least sit with her and encourage her to be quiet, to hear God's voice, because she used to when she was younger. She used to before this happened. And she was just having a really hard time with this. So I would just encourage anybody, if you know of someone that's going through this, to consider different aspects. Victims amiss, victims mistaken under other circumstances. There's always more to someone's story and more things to consider. So for me, even in the last 3.5 years, it was concern for her welfare, knowing, where her thinking was when she left. Another thing he would have me touch on also, victory comes in many forms, and things are not always what they appear. And he has me bring this up for anyone to not be discouraged with those who may be claiming victory. They want complete victory in the physical. They want complete victory here and there. and to not be condemned with what they may misjudge on the outside. Like I said, after Sabrina left here, it was to question where I failed or what more could I have done. And he very clearly and audibly said, don't go there. Don't be beating yourself up. He knew how much I was going by his direction, and he knew what was up ahead. And he knew the victories that would be accomplished. And yes, there were small ones along the way. But he knew more of that story and let me know, despite what anyone said, that I had already gone above and beyond. And actually what he said is I'd gone above and beyond what most would do. So, things are not always what they appear. And I do hear in the spirit from some, I've heard it at a church service this last Sunday, claiming that complete victory, seeing it as a failure, seeing anyone that may not come out completely whole on the other side as not being a victory. And the Lord knows. Don't let that get at you. I'm sorry, I don't mean to mess that up. But to not let that get in your way. He knows those circumstances. He knows what it takes. And there are some loved ones, they may never have anything good to say, and we just have to just love them from far, far away. I do want to encourage you in that. Some people, we just need to do that. I did mention a few weeks ago, he had let me know, watch and pray that you fall not into temptation. And Sunday, I had woke up irritable. I was being shown things through the night. I was reminded as far as what those in the jail did to Sabrina and what it caused, how it just added to a social problem. It really did. Added to a social problem. And so I was feeling irritable and trying to stay calm, keep level-headed. And he was reminded me, to fall not into temptation. I was keeping mindful of those things. But through the day, it got to the point, there were different thoughts hitting my head, and it was irritating me. The thought that anyone would dare trigger anger during a time that needs to be healthy. The grieving process, everybody goes through it different. And I was getting irritated at the idea of a certain person triggering anger and making a mess out of a memorial service for my daughter. And needless to say, I wanted to physically kick butt. To put it nicely, I was getting very irritated and angry. And I almost went to say something to my son. I have co-parented him with the father through his whole life. And I was just irritated and angry. And with something that was being said and something that had come up. And I went to go say something to my son. And the father immediately said, don't go there. Don't go there. And I had to zip it and work through. So, as far as temptation, we all have those moments. We may want to say things that we know maybe we don't at the time. We feel angry. We just want to say something, get it off our chest. That's just not good. Don't fall into temptation either. Just do your best. Keep that in the Father's hand. So in that, I do want to say real quick, encouraging others, but also, Bruce, when you listen to this, give me a call when you can. There was something I was given for you. And that's all I'm going to say. Just give me a call. I realize we just talked a while ago, but just give me a call. And so on that, I'm just going to say, here we've got snow. We do have plenty of snow. And I mean, it's not all that deep, but we have snow. Some areas, they have quite a bit. And just hours before the temps started tanking fast, Dave and I, we didn't get the help we were hoping for. And it was on an irritable day. That didn't help. And but Dave and I were out there and doing our best to cover the hoop house and get the garden covered. We got that taken care of. And it was in the 90s. We're in our shorts. We're sweating. We've got ash raining down on us. The smoke was bad, the forest fires. And we have one fire that's the worst in recorded history for Colorado. And so here we were in the 90s, ash, rains of ash and the smoke, doing our best to get the hoop house covered. And sure enough, come morning, it wasn't expected until 5, no moisture until 5, and it started at 10. And we are so thankful we got it done. And come morning, I mean, it's gone down as much as 32 degrees. So that's what we got going on out here, and I would hope there is a good blanket over all these fires. There've been a lot of people asking and praying for rain, and we got rain and snow. So I would think that the fires are being smoldered right out, and the air looks clear. So anyway, I just want to close up with that. Let anybody know if you're in question and you've heard about the fires or even the extreme weather here in Colorado. It's known to have freak snowstorms. And I was concerned with the any temps under 50 because of the tomato plants. And I'm just thinking we're going to be having a whole lot of fried green tomatoes. So anyway, on that note, I'll close it up there, and feel free to comment and post anything in the group. This is good. I mean, we all need, when we grieve, it needs to be healthy. The key word is healthy. And if there's someone that interferes with it, do the best you can. But main thing, hand that over to the Father. Let him have that perfect vengeance. He gets to the heart of the matter. Also, I did want to let you know, just very briefly, I did reach out down in Arizona concerning for the driver. And apparently there is another issue that has come up concerning this accident. And so I was told no. He wasn't going to give me any information concerning the driver. So here we go with to love from far, far away. But it was to know what was going on in the inside. And here we go. Last week I did touch on the spiritual side, and this week to touch on the natural. And to keep in mind the spiritual does govern the natural. And the spiritual does war against the natural wars against the spiritual. Should have said it the other way around. But there are, a lot of times until we get to that point where we do reach that wholeness in spirit, in the power of love, there is a warfare going on inside ourselves with the need to overcome those things. Like I said, we are made to be victors, not victims. And we're all challenged in different ways. And to keep that in mind. I also, before I close up, I had written the blog and with the need to edit it now, but of course then I was distracted. Thoughts elsewhere with everything going on. So I will be getting this up. But it's also to encourage all of you to take that time and press in on his presence. Just sit still. As the picture is in the group, sit still and know I am that I am. Be quiet and to press in on his presence and to make sure, to be at rest in his hand and to receive his peace. He was letting me know these things. I will be bringing it up in the blog. But it is to encourage everyone here. Trust him. You're going to need it. Considering what's still coming, you're going to need it. And he would have you prepared and guided and receive comfort before whatever else may come. So on that, Have a great rest of the day, great rest of the week. Healing and health in the name of Jesus, in the power of love, through the Son of Fire. I'll catch you next Wednesday. Good to see you all.